Guess who woke up late? I had been up since 4 in the morning trying to burn off the sheer amount of joy I had from the night before, so I figured it's probably a good time to visit a few museums. If you know me, you know I like to get around a city either by walking or by using public transportation, so I hopped on a bus and I headed to Djurgården to check out Vasa Museum. Also, my apologies for the pronunciation. I just want to point out how beautiful it is out here, both in the public transportation system and check out this scenery. When you walk through those doors and into the climate-controlled area, you immediately get a sense of just how big this ship is. At a length of 69 meters and a height of 52.5 meters, it really does fill up the space. The ship sank on its maiden voyage in 1628, having traveled only 1.3 kilometers in what seemed like yet another case of the impatience and ambition of leaders causing them to not listen to their teams of experts. Then, it just sat at the bottom of Stockholm Harbor until it was salvaged in 1961. There are, I believe, 7 floors, and they covered everything from what they learned historically about the construction methods and technology that they used back then, to what they think a typical sailor looked like, to what the ship might have looked like when it set sail. It seemed to be pretty colorful at that. I'm also probably leaving out parts because I simply wasn't able to cover everything on this visit. I ended up spending most of my time on the second level, where they talked about the future of the ship and everything they've learned to help counteract the decomposition that was happening and still happening on the ship. They covered everything from what they discovered when they first brought the ship to the surface to lessons learned from having it on display, and there are some pretty fascinating stories from that alone, and how the museum continues to research how to keep the ship preserved for future generations. There's so much to absorb, so make sure you give yourself more than 2 hours, because after spending the vast majority of my time learning about the restoration effort, I found myself speedrunning all of the various floors. Still, for what I paid, I was happy with what I saw, and I definitely want to come back to learn more. Running the clock all the way down to 5 minutes before closing time, I made my way to the gift shop, loaded up on postcards, and thought about making my way to the next museum, Fotografiska. According to my transit app, the most efficient way to Fotografiska was to take the 82 Slussen via Gepsholmen, and it was only a short walk along the water. I was here on my own. I strategically chose to visit Fotografiska second because it was open till 11 that night, so I took my time. You could say I was ready for it. I mean, I was here on my own, my very first time, and I was doing something that maybe even a year ago I would have never thought to do, so I wanted to enjoy each and every view. So come and take a walk with me. Stockholm is an archipelago, so water transportation is just as big of a part as the buses, trains, and trolleys. I had purchased a 7-day ticket at the beginning of my trip, so I just scanned through the gate and waited only a minute or two before we were allowed to board. The ferry departs from a spot right next to Gröna Lund, an amusement park that was founded in 1883. I can't even begin to describe how excited I was to see Stockholm from the water. Heading west and facing the evening sun in a full-on Seattle squint. I mean, are we really ever used to the sun back home? We headed towards Slussen, passing Fotografiska on the way. I was messaging with a dear friend throughout the weekend, and they had been working at an event taking place also at Fotografiska, but in New York City. And let's just say the timing was serendipitous. I couldn't help but feel grateful for the friends I have in this life and the life that I get to live, let alone the overwhelmingly kind things that have been happening this weekend. Thoroughly impressed by the ferry operator's precision, we disembarked and I began walking the 1.3 kilometers toward Fotografiska, the Contemporary Museum of Photography, Art, and Culture. I don't know what it was with this trip, but as I alluded earlier, a friend back in New York City was working an event at Fotografiska, New York, but was in touch with the right people, and after a few gentle tugs on strings, managed to get me a comp admission all the way over here in Stockholm. I'm so lucky and so grateful to have the friends I have. During my time there, large tapestries by Cindy Sherman were on display. For me, these were pretty fascinating as she's more known for her photography, so to translate some of her work into this medium gave me a lot to look at and think about in context and in the details. I'll link more information on this and the other exhibitions in the description. Up next was an in-depth look at the selfie and its significance in the history of photography. By the way, these descriptions I'm giving really don't do any of these installations any justice. If you do get a chance to see them, I personally think they're well worth it. I then spent the next half hour to take in Oceanic Feelings, an installation by artist Ellie Ellie. I was starting to get hungry, so I climbed a flight of stairs to the restaurant. Unfortunately, service had just ended, but I still hung around to take in how the sunlight was filling in the space. I mean, is everything in Stockholm this beautiful? So far, I have no reason to believe the contrary. My legs and feet were starting to remind me of how old I was, so I wandered through one more installation, this one from this year's Pre-Pictet, before exiting through the gift shop and then finding a place to sit and reflect for a bit.
I just got out of Fotografiska Stockholm, and thank you Shia for getting me in there for one thing. And she also pointed out Stockholm and Iceland are roughly on the same latitude, which is mind-blowing to me. But also I guess that kind of explains this light that we have here at, what time is it? 10:20 in the evening. So what can I say? I love it here. Pardon the creaking of this dock here, but Stockholm is such a beautiful city. Everyone's so friendly, and let's just say if Taylor Swift comes back to Stockholm, which I think she said she would, I think I'm probably just going to go to a show here than anywhere else. I've had such a great time. Everybody's been wonderful, helpful, kind, and what more do you want in a city that you're going to visit? That's all I can say.
There's still about a 40-minute walk ahead of me back to the hotel, but with it essentially being blue hour as the clock approached 11, I decided to just walk it. I wanted to see everything I could possibly see and do a little bit of recon for tomorrow, as I still had one more day before having to fly home. As for today, it was a good day.